One of the harshest warnings that Jesus ever gave wasn't to outsiders, it's to his own people. He was talking to this church who had grown comfortable, who were self-reliant, and who were spiritually stagnant. And instead of applauding them for keeping it all together, he called them out in some of the strongest terms possible. Here's what he said. So because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. Now, that's a vivid image, and it raises some big questions, like what does it actually mean to be lukewarm? And more importantly, could this actually be describing us today? And in this video, we're going to unpack this verse and see what Jesus actually meant. But I want to start by backing up a little bit to see what's actually happening in this verse and why Jesus would use such intense language with this church. This verse is found in the book of Revelation, and it opens up this series of letters of personal messages from Jesus to 7 real churches in the first century. And each one of them highlights strengths and exposes some weaknesses. And the church this verse was written to was the church of Laodicea, the one that Jesus calls lukewarm. And this church was known for its wealth, for its comfort, for its self-sufficiency. They lived in this wealthy city and they were surrounded by resources. And they prided themselves on being able to take care of themselves. So much so that when an earthquake struck this city in 60 AD, the city refused help from Rome and rebuilt the city on their own. And that same spirit of independence had crept into the church. And instead of relying on God, they relied on themselves. They become complacent, comfortable, stagnant. And that's what Jesus is confronting. He tells them plainly, you are no longer useful. You've lost your purpose. You're lukewarm. Now, this isn't about losing salvation. It's about losing effectiveness. They had drifted from their calling, and Jesus was trying to shake them back awake. So, now that we know the backstory of Laodicea, a wealthy, comfortable, self-reliant, and spiritually stagnant place, Jesus' words hit a little bit differently, maybe a little bit harder. He's not pulling any punches. And so I want to break down this verse piece by piece and see what he's really saying. Verse starts off by saying, because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold. Now, Laodicea would have felt this illustration like deep down in their bones. You see, they didn't have access to the cold, refreshing water like the nearby city of Colossae or the healing hot springs of Hermopolis. By the time the water traveled through the aqueducts and into Laodicea, it was lukewarm. It was stale. It was unpleasant. It was basically useless. And that's the image Jesus uses here. The hot water is soothing. Cold water is refreshing. Both are useful, but lukewarm water doesn't refresh, doesn't heal, and nobody really wants to drink it. And Jesus is saying, you've lost your usefulness. You're stagnant. You're not living out your calling. It's not about being spiritually hot versus spiritually cold. It's about being effective. And they were coasting in comfort, and their faith had gone flat. And Jesus continues, says, I'm about to spit you out of my mouth. And again, this is strong language, but it's intentional. The Laodiceans would have immediately pictured sipping that lukewarm, mineral-filled water that made them want to spit it out. And Jesus uses this everyday image for them to make a point. They're self-sufficient. Their complacent faith had disgusted him, not because he didn't love them, but because they were being ineffective in their mission. I love what Tom Constable says about this verse. He says this, the Lord spitting his people out of his mouth does not mean that they would lose their salvation. It indicates his intense disgust. He did not mean that he would rather them be spiritually cold than that they would be spiritually lukewarm either. He did mean that he would rather we be spiritually refreshing or healthful as a cold or hot water, rather that we be spiritually bland as lukewarm water. This verse here is about so much more than the water supply to the city. It's about Christians, both then and now today, who drift into comfort, into pride, into self-reliance. And when that happens, our faith loses its edge. We stop being a source of healing and refreshment for the world around us. And Revelation 3:16 isn't Jesus slamming the door on his people, it's Jesus pounding on the door, trying to get their attention and our attention today before it's too late. So, what do we do with all this? Jesus' warning in this verse isn't just to the church in Laodicea, it's for us today too. And the truth is, many of us in the modern church, we face this same temptation. We get comfortable, we rely on ourselves, and we drift into lukewarm faith. But Jesus doesn't give us this warning to shame us. He gave it to wake us up. And the same invitation that was to this church thousands of years ago is there for us today. So here's 3 ways you can put this verse into practice. And the first way is to stop living on cruise control. Here's the reality. Faith does not grow when it's on autopilot. The Laodiceans thought they were doing fine, but they were coasting, and comfort will always pull us towards complacency. So take a hard look. Where in your life are you just going through the motions spiritually? Are you showing up at church but not really engaging with God? Are you reading scripture but not really letting it change you? You see, Jesus calls us out of cruise control and into intentional faith. Hot or cold, soothing or refreshing, faith that actually is making a difference. And the second way you can apply this verse is to depend on God, not yourself. Laodicea prided itself on self-sufficiency. They could rebuild their city, they could run their lives, they could handle things on their own, and that mindset poisoned their faith. And maybe that sounds a little familiar, because our culture tells us that you've got this. Just try harder, just be enough. But Jesus says, no, you don't have this, but I do, and you need me. You see, being lukewarm often starts with forgetting our need for God. So instead of asking, how can I fix this? Start by asking, where do I need to depend on Him today? And the last way you can apply this verse to your life is to be useful where God has placed you. Hot water heals, cold water refreshes, lukewarm water does neither. And Jesus doesn't want His people to be stagnant. He wants us to bring healing and encouragement in life wherever we go. That's our calling, to be His hands and His feet. So ask yourself, who needs encouragement around me today? Who needs you to show up with prayer, with generosity, with truth spoken in love today? Don't settle for lukewarm faith that makes no impact. Step into the purpose that God has given you. Revelation 3:16 isn't about Jesus giving up on His people. It's about Him calling us back to usefulness. You were not created to be lukewarm, to be self-reliant, to have a comfortable faith. You were created with the source of life, with hope, and with refreshment to give to the people around you. So the question is simple. Will you stay lukewarm, or will you let God ignite your faith again? I'd love to hear from you. What stood out most to you from this verse? Let me know down in the comments. And if this video helped you, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.